It's indeed a pleasure for me to address the 6th Moscow Conference on International Security. I am honored to represent India at this important event and thank the Honorable Minister of Defense of Russia, Minister Shoigu, for his invitation. At the outset, I felicitate the organizers of for the excellent arrangements and the program drawn up for this conference. The participation this year is impressive, with representation from a large number of countries present here. The Moscow Conference has established itself as one of the most important global forums for discussions on contemporary security matters. The theme of the current session covers emerging trends in global security. It is appropriate that we discuss the subject in Moscow, which is one of the key centers for decision-making on global security issues, in keeping with Russia's significance and influence in the world affairs. As a long-standing friend and strategic partner, India supports an expanded role by Russia in global affairs, especially in our shared neighborhood. The fact is that the problems confronting the world today cannot be solved by any one country or a group of countries, but requires an inclusive approach. I welcome the Russian Defense Minister's opening address to the conference, which underlined Russia's intent to seek new avenues for regional and global stability and a constructive approach towards resolving conflicts. India and Russia share a special and privileged strategic partnership which has stood the test of time. Our cooperation in defense and security matters in particular has been robust. Russia is India's foremost defense partner. I look forward to my meeting with the Minister for Defense later today to discuss how we can together further and deepen our defense ties. Over the past few months, India and Russia have taken steps to further strengthen the engagement between our armed forces. We will shortly negotiate a new armed forces training arrangement. Later this year, India and Russian armed forces will hold the Indra Tri-Services joint military exercise in Russia. This would be a historic occasion, as it will be the first time that India and Russia are taking part in the joint exercise in such a format with each other or with any other country. India deeply appreciates Russia's support at the difficult periods of our history. The unwavering support from Russia is reflected in the depth of public support in India for building a stronger partnership with Russia. I am confident that India and Russia will continue to work together on all issues of mutual interest, whether bilaterally or multilaterally, in frameworks of BRICS, SCO, and other forums. Friends, ours is an age of rapid and unpredictable change. Nowhere is the pace and direction of these changes faster and more complex than in the geopolitical and strategic arena. The continued unpredictability in ties between major powers recently has brought new uncertainties to the fore. The implications of these developments are difficult to fully ascertain at this stage. On the one hand, these reflect a wider diffusion of power in the international system, which by itself is a positive development. However, we need to manage this change effectively for our mutual benefit. There are also worrying signs of economic protectionism. New barriers to migration and the closing of borders are other elements of such an approach. However, such efforts are unlikely to be able to address the complex issues involved. The growing role and importance of Asia is a striking aspect of the changed international environment. For the foreseeable future, Asian economies will continue to be drivers of the global growth. Asia would also be emerging at the stage for competition between large and rising powers. Europe appears to be preoccupied with the future of the European Union project. We are also witnessing a sharpening of divisions in the European continent not seen since the Cold War. In West Asia, turmoil thrown up by rapid political changes in the region has yet to be fundamentally resolved. These changes have also led to the rise of groups with extremists fundamentalist and terrorist ideologies whose activities have forced open sectarian fissures and violence. The situation in Afghanistan continues to be challenging. Facile assessments that imply that there is a choice between evil forces at play is that countries are endangering the gains made by the brave Afghan people with the support of the international community over the past decade or more. The recent condemnable and dastardly attack on the Afghan National Security Forces in Mazar-e-Sharif is a sharp reminder to this. A policy of zero tolerance towards violence and terrorism and continued efforts to consolidate the capacity of the Afghan government to deal with violence as well as promote development are essential. India believes that a secure and stable and a peaceful Afghanistan is achievable with the continued commitment of the international community. India has provided assistance and support to the friendly people of Afghanistan. We will continue to do so as we can. We also look forward to working in tandem with all parties that share the same objectives in Afghanistan. We welcome the recent efforts by Russia to hold consultations on Afghanistan, in which India has been actively participating. Ladies and gentlemen, the scourge of terrorism remains the primary security challenge to all peaceful countries. Russia continues to be a target, with the attack at St. Petersburg still fresh in our memory. I wish to convey India's strong solidarity with Russia and our sympathy for the victims and their families affected by this dastardly attack. Terrorism is being reinvented in newer and even more dangerous manifestations. The manipulation of young minds by fundamentalist groups using new technologies and social media has already caused long-term damage to our societies. One manifestation of this is the recent string of lone wolf attacks in many countries. On the positive side, the territory acquired by the ISIS in the Middle East has begun to effectively be challenged by several countries. This is reassuring and should be taken to its logical conclusion. Cooperation between major powers in this effort can become a template for similar steps elsewhere. However, seen as we work to eliminate the breeding grounds of terrorism in West Asia, the dangers of such elements returning to their home countries has become a major challenge. We need to encourage closer information exchanges and intelligence cooperation to address this threat. We should also resolutely resist opportunistic efforts by some states to support terrorist proxies by training, funding, or providing safe havens to such groups for their limited objectives. Distinctions are still sought to be made between good and bad terrorists, despite all the evidence and experience to the contrary. Terrorism will recoil on those who nurture it. The global nature of this menace and the need for a coherent and sustained international response to it is now widely acknowledged. Nearly all countries, structures and processes that help peace and stability. In Asia Pacific, the past decade of peaceful growth has transformed that region into one of the most dynamic engines of global economy. We need to ensure that a continued prosperity of the region is not put at risk. India believes that the rights of the freedom of navigation and overflight as well as unimpeded commerce should be ensured. These are vital to India's own economic engagement with the Indo-Pacific region. The recent escalation of tensions in the Korean Peninsula is a matter of concern. The linkages between the proliferation in the region and the deterioration of India's own security environment is widely known. Addressing the current should acknowledge that this aspect and address the issues with a broader perspective to be fully and effective. Another aspect of the current security scenario is the growing salience of the non-traditional threats to security. Effective management of cyberspace has emerged as a key national security challenge for many countries. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief requirements are also increasingly fueled both by man-made and natural causes. Ladies and gentlemen, India will continue to play its due role in the maintenance of regional and international peace and stability. India's rapid growth over the past 2 decades has also helped to elevate the economic trajectory of our smaller neighbors. With our renewed emphasis on regional connectivity, the focus of Act East and the ongoing effort to engage the Gulf countries, Africa, as well as the wider Indian Ocean region, India is now at the center of a dynamic web of partnerships. Our economic and diplomatic engagement with Eurasian region is also a top priority for India. Building on our strong ties with Russia, as we hope to steadily enhance the linkages with Central Asian countries. Defense and security cooperation is an increasingly important aspect of India's diplomatic engagements. We have built greater military-to-military ties, sharing the best practices, enhancing our training cooperation, as well as the tie-ups in the defense industry and research and development for mutual benefit. These efforts are making significant progress. I am confident that these partnerships will contribute to a more stable, peaceful environment, as well as spur greater economic growth and shared development in India, our region, and beyond. I thank you all very much.